Hi everyone, today's words to live by are: Thou shalt not take thyself too seriously. That quote is not in the Bible. It's something that I say to myself quite often, and it sort of breaks me out of the seriousness of life sometimes that we get into. And I think there's really something to this balance or this awareness of taking life itself seriously or having respect for life itself and taking your purpose in life and what you do seriously, but not taking yourself too seriously. And that's the part that I think over time, I've really worked pretty hard on is to basically make jokes and be silly and sort of remember that little boy in me where it's okay to have coffee stains on your shirt and, trip and do silly things and appreciate the brilliance of dumb movies. Sometimes those are my favorites to sit down and watch, is just because they're so silly that in a way they're pretty smart. And I appreciate that about sort of the silliness of entertainment and being filled with light as opposed to just darkness and sorrow. Doesn't mean that there aren't parts of life that are somber and solemn, and where sort of calm and quiet and humility are important things, because they are, and I talk about them quite a bit. But there is a definite place for joy and being a source of joy for others and spreading that joy and feeling that joy inside. And in fact, having a state of joy or carrying a state of joy is a very high level of consciousness. It's right up there with unconditional love, according to Dr. David Hawkins in Power versus Force, if you've ever read that book. That was his life's work, was measuring states of consciousness within people. And at the very, very low end, not surprisingly, are things like rage and anger and jealousy and these sort of dark, dark states of emotion. And then as you go up to a very, very high, almost enlightened level of consciousness, you've got things like joy and unconditional love. And it's not really surprising when you sort of think about when we're at our best is when we're in a state of joy and lightness and we're not sort of bogged down by heaviness all the time. It doesn't mean that life is completely a comedy, and it doesn't also mean that life is completely a drama or, something that's sad. And I personally don't believe in that old saying, life is all about suffering. And I just have never gotten there in my head. I think there's a balance between letting joy into your life and being able to be a spreader of joy. Now, sometimes, listen, it's really hard, and you get into a dark place in life, like I've been once or twice in my life, where it's really hard to see the joy in things. And I think, especially too, if you have battled depression or PTSD or any types of those conditions that are very serious, you're not exactly like looking for joy around every corner. But I think when I've gotten into those situations, I found joy in the simplest things like nature. If I was sitting in a dark room one time and there was a window and I could look outside and see birds flying on trees and chirping, and I could see sort of beautiful sunset or beautiful sunrise, and I could start to sort of look for the joy in the things that were just naturally occurring around me. That was really the start of getting into a joyful state almost every day. And so I think that just maintaining that sense of not taking myself too serious or my problems too seriously, I think was really a turning point for me in my life. So I wanted to share that with you. Again, that quote's not in the Bible. It's just something I say to myself from time to time, so I hope you appreciate it and take something from it. And if you did, please like and or subscribe, and I will see you all again soon.